Hi, today we're going to be discussing a particular down payment assistance program. A lot of buyers are wondering how they can possibly get into a home, and a lot of people have been searching the internet trying to figure out what is some of the down payment assistance program. Well, in a few minutes, we're going to discuss what is TSHAC. We're going to learn exactly how you can get into a home with little or no money, even when you do not have a lot of down payment money available. There are some buyers who have the credit score to basically qualify for a mortgage, but they do not have a sufficient amount of down payment assistance available. So Freddie Mac recently sent out a report entitled Perception of Down Payment Consumer Research. The report uncovered the following. For some first-time home buyers, putting something aside for the initial down payment is the biggest obstruction to accomplish the objective of home ownership. A portion of those who wanted to buy a home were trying to figure out the amount that they should put down on a home and trying to see how they would set aside the amount needed to save up the amount. This was based on ongoing reviews of people wanting to buy a home with 3 years, almost a third of them thinking that they had to put 20% down. Now, we do know that if you were to go FHA requires you to put 3.5% down, and that's what FHA does require. One of the things we're going to uncover right now are the programs available for you to purchase a home when you do not have much money to put down. So what we're going to do, we're going to review what TSHAC is and how you can use it to buy your next home. Now, the thing is, if you want to get full information on TSHAC, you can visit their website at www.tshac.org, and that is TSAHC.org. That is where you can get information about the different loan programs. They have a lot of different information. So what we're going to do, we're going to talk first about what normally would happen in a transaction when you're trying to buy a home and basically you're not using a down payment assistance program. Now, one thing you want to understand that normally what we would do is we would basically try to go to the seller. You can see in our example that the seller's home is worth about $250,000. You call your agent and the agent shows you a home, and at this moment you decide it's the home of your dreams, but you want to make an offer, but you need help with closing costs. So first, what we do, we would normally ask the seller for possibly, let's say, $5,000. Well, what we do on the agreement, we would put the $5,000 in section 12A1B, and on that agreement we would ask the seller to basically basically give us at least $5,000 in reference to the closing costs. Now, what would happen is the seller would basically raise the price. The price would be $255K, and then we basically would ask the seller to go ahead and give us that $5,000, where the seller would still get $250, and we would basically get the $5,000 for you as the buyer. The only issue is today we are in a seller's market. So because we're in a seller's market, a lot of sellers are not interested in giving up sellers concessions to buyers right now. We've even seen the results where you would submit an offer to a seller and basically the seller would just outright say no to you. And the reason why is because they have plenty of buyers to deal with. So they're basically saying to you, well, at this particular time, I don't want to give that much money to you as the buyer. So what tends to happen is you get rejected, the other buyer gets the house, and you're still out searching for a home. Now, this is where we bring in TSHAC. TSHAC is a program when we bring it in. In our example before, what normally happens is when we're utilizing the down payment assistance program, if you remember the example, what would happen is we would offer the seller $250K price, and we would still send over the approval letter to the seller. The only difference in that is that we're not asking the seller for the down payment amount of the money. Instead, what we're doing, we'll we will give the seller what they want, which is their 250K, but we will go to TSAHC to ask for help for the closing costs instead of using the traditional seller's concession. Now, one thing you want to keep in mind, based off of what TSAHC says, there are two types of down payment assistance programs that they offer. Now, one of the down payment assistance program they offer is like a grant. Now, if you apply and you're eligible to receive the grant works as follows. When you are approved for the grant, for it to be a true grant, you must live in the property for 6 months. Now, you must keep this in mind that if you go for the grant, for the down payment assistance, you must live in the property for 6 months. So that means you have to understand this part, that if for some reason you decide to move out of that house before those 6 months is up, then the amount is due and payable when you sell the property. Now, to prevent that, what you have to do is just make sure that you follow by the rules and stay in the property for 6 months. Now, if you stay in the property over 6 months, and then after 6 months, for some odd reason, your job comes in and you have to move out, then you're able to move out, but then that down payment will not be due and payable at closing. Now, this is what we call a true grant. A true grant is where basically they will gift you the money, and when they gift you the money is not due and payable to at closing. The credit score will need to be around about a 620. Now, you must understand that your credit has to be a 620 in order for you to qualify for that particular program. Now, the second way to do little or no money down would be to put a second lien on the property. Now, this is a second option that you would have. There would be a first mortgage lien, which would be who you would pay. You would pay that to whoever your first mortgage lien is, whether it be Wells Fargo, whether it be Bank of America, whether it be any other mortgage company that you decide to choose. That's who you would pay your first mortgage to. Then on the property, you will have what we call a second lien holder. Now, the second lien holder is going to be TSAHC. Now, understand that TSAHC program will be considered a second soft lien. So it's not something that's hard, meaning that they're not requiring any monthly payments. They're not requiring you to basically pay any interest rate. What they're saying is they're going to put a second lien on the property. Now, this amount will stay on the property until you decide to sell the property, transfer the property, or when you refinance the property. Now, the thing is, the second lien program, you do not have to be a first-time home buyer in order to qualify for this program. So it doesn't require you to be a first-time home buyer. That means that if you are buying your second home, you need a little assistance, you can apply for this particular program. Second lien program, you do have to understand that the down payment amount can be up to 6%, but you must have a 680 credit score to be able to apply for the second lien program. That's what you want to understand. Now, the thing is, we're going to talk a little briefly about the interest rate. Now, understand that because you are taking on a down payment assistance program, I want you to understand that there's a possibility that the interest rate is going to be slightly higher than the market rate. Now, I want to make that upfront. I want to make you aware of that. That way, if you're talking to the loan officer is qualifying you, and then after you get qualified, you start to realize that the interest rate is not what the market rate is. And that's because you got to keep in mind that you are receiving a grant for the funds. And the thing is, you do not have to pay back these funds if you follow TSAHC's guidelines. But you must make a choice in reference to understanding that there is a strong possibility that the interest rate will be slightly higher than normal. And this is to be expected when you are utilizing a program like this. The other thing that you also want to keep in mind in utilizing a program like this is remember that you must use a lender who is a TSAHC certified lender. So you must utilize a lender who is TSAHC certified. You cannot just use any lender. So you must make sure that you're utilizing the lenders who are certified by TSAHC. Now, if you need assistance with this, feel free to contact me and I will get you in touch with lenders who are TSAHC certified, and that way they can get you qualified to get into this particular program. Another thing you want to keep in mind, and we're going to bring this to a close. Another thing you want to keep in mind is that also on the property, there's a possibility you can utilize the mortgage credit certification along with the down payment assistance program. Now, based off of the program, this is only for first-time home buyers. Now, understand if you bought your house and you're trying to get into the mortgage credit certification, unfortunately, you won't be able to qualify. Now, if you are a first-time home buyer and you decide that you want this, the main thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you talk to the lender that you're in touch with. And the main benefit of the tax credit is being able to reduce your federal income tax. For you to be eligible, again, you must be a first-time home buyer or not owned a home within the last 3 years. And that is the exception, that if you have not owned a home within the last 3 years, then there's a strong possibility that you would qualify for this program. I would definitely like to thank you all very much in reference to this presentation about down payment. You do understand that you can utilize this program to get in the house. So again, if you feel that you got the credit score, but you just don't have access to trying to get the down payment, or this program is definitely for you. Feel free to like this page. Feel free to get a hold of me, and I'll be happy to help you in reference to your home buying needs. Thank you very much. You have a wonderful and pleasant day.